Hi, this is Jaya. In this video, we shall see about the causes of the English Civil War and the influence on English governance. The English Civil War, which took place from 1642 to 1651, was the result of a series of battles which were between the royalists, that is, the supporters of the King Charles I, and the parliamentarians, the supporters of the parliament. And this was because they wanted to prove who was more powerful, whether it was the king or the parliament authority. And at the same time, there were also a lot of religious divisions and social unrest, and this resulted in a temporary abolition of monarchy and the emergence of principles which led to the modern democratic governments. Now, when we see the causes, we find that there was a conflict between the king and the parliament. Traditionally, the English kings always ruled England with the support of parliament, particularly for taxation. But King Charles I strongly believed in divine rights of the kings. That is, he felt that a king is next to God and he is not answerable to anyone. But Parliament, on the other hand, demanded more control over taxation and also on governance. And there was a friction between them because Charles began levying tax without the permission of the Parliament, such as the unpopular ship money tax. And this made the parliamentarians feel that their rights and privileges were being violated. And there was also financial mismanagement because Charles I inherited a financially strained monarchy. That is, when he came into power, there was less money in the treasure. And therefore, he started raising money through many methods. And this he did without the parliament's approval, and this only worsened the situation. And his decision to dissolve the parliament for 11 years, that is from 1629 to 1640, a period which was known as the personal rule, meant that he had to resort to unorthodox and oppressive fiscal policies. And these policies included forced loans from subjects, selling monopolies, fines for non-attendance at Anglican church services, and these measures alienated both the nobility and also the common people and increased dissatisfaction on royal rule. And there was also religious tensions. Charles I, under the influence of Archbishop Laud, tried to impose high Anglican practices on the Church of England. And this was not liked by the Protestants because they thought that they were again closely going back to Catholicism. And the enforcement of religious conformity, including the use of the Book of Common Prayer, angered the Puritans and the Presbyterians, especially in Scotland. The attempt to impose Anglicanism on Scotland led to the Bishops' Wars, which forced Charles to recall the Parliament in 1640 to raise funds. And this session, known as the Long Parliament, became a platform for open opposition to the king's policies, and the tension soon led to civil war. Then came the Irish Rebellion and the public fear. In 1641, a violent rebellion broke out in Ireland, and in this, about thousands of English and Protestant settlers were killed. The reports were exaggerating the number of deaths, and this intensified anti Catholic settlement in England and caused public panic. Parliament also feared that Charles will use this opportunity to raise an army, saying that he is going to suppress the rebellion, but instead he will use it against the Parliament. And this fear of royal absolutism, backed by a Catholic army, turned public opinion further against the king. And the immediate trigger was the attempt to arrest parliamentarians. In January 1642, Charles made the fateful decision to enter the House of Commons with a lot of armed soldiers to arrest the 5 leading MPs. And this act was seen as an attack on the sovereignty of Parliament, and it also violated centuries of parliamentary privilege. Though the MPs had fled beforehand, this action of the king outraged the nation and left him politically isolated. Soon after, Charles left London and both sides began mobilizing troops, leading to outbreak of war in August 1642. And there were different phases in the Civil War. First Civil War was fought between 1642 to 1646, and it was fought between Royalists and the Parliamentarians. In this war, the Parliamentarians won at the Battle of Naseby in 1645 and turned the tide. The second Civil War took place in 1648, and this was after Charles' attempts to regain power. Parliament's noble model army defeated the Royalists again. And then came the trial and the execution. In 1649, Charles I was captured, tried for treason, and executed, which was a revolutionary act that shocked the whole of Europe. Intergem and Commonwealth. This was from 1649 to 1660. England was declared a republic under the leadership of Oliver Cromwell as Lord Protector. And the influence this civil war had on the English governors are it brought an end to the absolute monarchy. The war marked the decline of the absolute monarchical rule in England. The execution of Charles I in 1649 was a symbolic and political statement that even a king was subject to the law and could be held accountable. This established the principle that the monarch could not rule without parliament. Though monarchy was restored in 1660 under Charles II, the relationship between crown and parliament had permanently changed. And it also led to the growth of the parliamentary power. The war underscored the primacy of parliament and governors. It had proven that it could raise armies, manage finances, and legislate independently. The Bill of Rights of 1689, passed later during the Glorious Revolution, formally restricted monarchical powers and guaranteed parliamentary supremacy. And then it led to the rise of republican ideas. The interregnum period under Cromwell saw the emergence of republican thought. Radical groups like the Levelers and Diggers advocated for equality, universal suffrage, and land reforms. While these movements were suppressed, their ideas influenced future democratic developments. The war encouraged broader political discussions about liberty, representation, and the rights of the governed, all of which became essential to the evolution of modern democracy. And it also formed the legal and constitutional precedents. The events of the Civil War led to the power shift towards a constitutional framework. The trial of Charles I paved the way for later legal principles like habeas corpus, fair trial, and civil liberties. And it also had an impact on military and civil administration. The creation of the new model army, which was a disciplined and professional fighting force, changed the structure of the military. Till then, they were selected in the army only based on their birth. But this was not considered a merit, and they chose people only based on their merit, and this success influenced the future organization of armed forces, and civil administration also became more centralized and efficient with better tax collection and governance structures which were developed during the Commonwealth period. If you have anything more to add on to what I've said, please write it in the comment box, like the video, share it with your friends, and if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe and support. Thank you.